4 seconds. That's how long Natasha had between seeing the rifle scope and grabbing the stranger's tie. 4 seconds to decide between running and saving a man she didn't know. She chose wrong, or maybe right, depending on who you ask. Because the stranger was Kim Jae-hyun, Indianapolis's most powerful crime boss. Because the shooter was his own second-in-command. Because the moment that window exploded and his body covered hers behind the bar, she stopped being an invisible immigrant waitress and became the woman who saved a mafia king's life. "That makes you a target," he said against her ear. "That makes you mine." Hey, quick question. Have you ever been so invisible that one moment of being seen changed your entire life? That's what just happened to Natasha, and honestly, she's not sure if it's a blessing or a curse. Would you trade safety for being truly seen by someone powerful? Let me know and subscribe, because what happens next is intense. Let's go. The rifle scope glinted from the Indianapolis rooftop across the street. Natasha saw it first, the tiny flash of light that didn't belong in the gray January afternoon. Her hand swerved before her brain caught up, fingers closing around the silk tie of the man who'd just ordered whiskey. Neat, yanking him down so hard his forehead cracked against the bar. "There's a sniper," she hissed, her Malawian accent thickening with adrenaline. "Your Capo set you up." Kim Jae-hyun's dark eyes went wide for half a second before his expression hardened into something cold and lethal. He didn't question her, didn't hesitate. His hand found hers on his tie and squeezed once, hard enough to hurt, before he rolled off the bar stool and dragged her down with him. The window exploded inward. Glass rained down like deadly snow, and Natasha felt Jae-hyun's body cover hers, his weight pressing her into the sticky floor behind the bar. She could smell his cologne mixed with whiskey and her own fear sweat. Her heart slammed against her ribs so hard she thought they might crack. "How did you know?" His voice was barely a whisper against her ear, lips so close she felt them move. I just saw the light. The reflection." Her words tumbled out fast and shaky. "I grew up near Lake Malawi. My brothers hunted, so I know what a scope looks like when the sun hits it wrong." Another shot punched through the mahogany bar above their heads, sending splinters raining down. Jae-hyun's jaw clenched. "Vincent, that backstabbing piece of—" "Your phone," Natasha interrupted, thinking faster than she'd ever thought in her life. "Call someone. Get help." But Jae-hyun was already moving, his hand sliding into his jacket to pull out a sleek black phone. His fingers flew over the screen while Natasha's mind raced. This was her 3rd week working at the Ivory Room, Indianapolis's most exclusive private club. She'd taken the job because it paid triple what she made at her last waitressing gig, enough to send money home to her mother and 3 younger siblings in Lilongwe. She'd ignored the whispers about the clientele, about the men in expensive suits who conducted business in the private rooms upstairs. Now she was lying on a floor covered in glass and blood. Wait, was that blood? She touched her cheek, and her fingers came away red. "You're hit," Jae-hyun said sharply, his eyes scanning her face with an intensity that made her stomach flip in a way that had nothing to do with fear. Well, maybe a little fear. Mostly confusion. Just a cut from the glass, I think. She pressed her palm against the wound, feeling the sting. "I'm fine." "You just saved my life and you're bleeding on a bar floor. You're not fine." His accent was slight but present, each word precise and controlled. "Stay low. My men are 2 minutes out." Natasha's mind spun. His men. Right. Because he wasn't just some rich businessman who liked expensive whiskey. He was Kim Jae-hyun, and she'd heard the other servers whisper his name with the kind of reverence usually reserved for celebrities or gods. The Korean who ran half of Indianapolis's underground operations, who'd supposedly taken over his father's organization at 23 and expanded it across 3 states by 30. He was 32 now. She knew because she'd overheard him arguing with someone on the phone last week about a birthday dinner he didn't want to attend. She was 26 and currently trapped behind a bar with a man who probably had more blood on his hands than she wanted to think about. "Why Vincent?" she asked, because her mouth apparently didn't care about self-preservation. "Why would your capo want you dead?" Jae-hyun's expression went dark. "Because I told him no. He wanted to expand into prescription drugs, start pushing to kids outside high schools. I shut it down." He shifted slightly, peering over the edge of the bar. Vincent never liked being told no. Apparently, he liked it even less than I thought. Sirens wailed in, the distance growing closer. "Your men or the cops?" Natasha whispered. "Both, probably." Jae-hyun looked at her again, really looked at her, and something in his expression softened just a fraction. "What's your name?" "Your real name, not the one on your name tag." She blinked. Her name tag said Kelly because her manager insisted Natasha was too hard for customers to pronounce. She'd wanted to argue, but needed the job too badly. "Natasha Mwale," she said. "It's Malawian." "Natasha." He said it perfectly, each syllable clear and intentional. "Thank you, Natasha Mwale. You didn't have to grab me. You could have run." She hadn't actually thought about it. Her body had just moved. "I don't know why I did it." "Instinct." His lips quirked into something that might have been a smile under different circumstances. "Good instinct." The front doors burst open, and men in black suits flooded in, guns drawn, moving with military precision. Jae-hyun stood smoothly, pulling Natasha up with him. Her legs shook, but held. Barely. One of the men, tall with a scar running down his left cheek, approached quickly. "Boss, are you—" "Fine. The shooter was on the Roosevelt Building, east side, probably 4th or 5th floor. He's gone by now, but check anyway." Jae-hyun's hand was still on Natasha's elbow, steadying her. "And find Vincent. I want him in the warehouse by midnight." The scarred man's eyes flicked to Natasha, curious and assessing. "And the girl?" "The girl saved my life," Jae-hyun said quietly. "She goes home safe, unhurt." "Understood?" "Yes, sir." Natasha found her voice. "I can get home myself. I just need my bag from the back room." "No." Jae-hyun's tone left no room for argument. "Vincent might have had people watching, waiting. If they saw you pull me down, they'll know you're the reason I'm alive. That makes you a target." Her stomach dropped. "I'm a waitress. I'm nobody." "You were nobody." His eyes held hers. "Now, you're the person who saved Kim Ja-hyun's life. That's something else entirely." The next hour passed in a blur of questions from police, who clearly knew better than to push too hard, paramedics who cleaned and bandaged the cut on her cheek, and Jae-hyun's men creating a perimeter around her, like she was made of glass. She called her roommate, Zara, to explain she'd be late, maybe very late, and definitely wasn't dead despite what the news might say. Zara, predictably, freaked out. "You what? You grabbed who? Natasha, do you have any idea?" I know. Look, I'm fine. I'll explain everything when I get home, okay? I have to go." She hung up before Zara could lecture her about the dangers of working at places like the Ivory Room, lectures she'd heard 100 times and ignored because rent in Indianapolis wasn't cheap and her family needed money. Jae-hyun appeared at her elbow. He'd shed his jacket somewhere and rolled up his sleeves, exposing forearms marked with ink. She couldn't quite make out in the dim, emergency lighting. "My car's out front. I'm taking you home." "You really don't have to." "Natasha." He said her name like it was important, like it mattered. "Please, let me do this." She wanted to argue, wanted to insist she could take the bus like always, but the reality of the situation was sinking in. Someone had tried to kill him. Someone might try again. And if they thought she was involved, if they thought she meant something to him. "Okay," she said softly. "Thank you." The car was a black sedan that probably cost more than her entire apartment building. The interior smelled like leather and that same cologne Jae-hyun wore, something expensive and cedar-like. His driver, a quiet older man who introduced himself simply as Choi, held the door open for her like she was someone important. Jae-hyun slid in beside her, and the door closed, cocooning them in silence. "Where do you live?" he asked. She gave him the address of her apartment in Fountain Square, a neighborhood that was trying very hard to be trendy, but couldn't quite shake its rough edges. He didn't comment, just relayed the information to Choi through the intercom. They drove in silence for several blocks before Jae-hyun spoke again. "The cut on your face, will it scar?" Natasha touched the bandage reflexively. The paramedic said probably not. Maybe a small one. It's fine. "It's not fine." His voice was tight. "You got hurt because of me." "I got hurt because some guy decided to shoot through a window," she corrected. "That's not on you." "Well, maybe it is a little bit on you since he was your capo trying to kill you. But still, I made the choice to pull you down. Nobody forced me." He turned to look at her fully, and in the dim light of the car, she could see the exhaustion around his eyes, the weight of whatever he carried. Most people would have run. Self-preservation is natural. I'm not most people, I guess. She shrugged, uncomfortable under his scrutiny. "My dad died when I was 12. Malaria. We couldn't afford the good medicine, couldn't get to a hospital fast enough. I watched him slip away over 3 days while my mother cried and prayed." She didn't know why she was telling him this. "Ever since then, if I can help, I help, even if it's stupid, even if it doesn't make sense." Jae-hyun was quiet for a long moment. "Your father would be proud of you." Her throat tightened. "Maybe. Or he'd think I was an idiot for getting involved with. No offense. None taken. Your father would probably be right to worry." He leaned back against the seat. "My father was different. He taught me that loyalty is everything, that family comes first, that weakness gets you killed." A bitter smile crossed his face. Then he got killed anyway, betrayed by someone he trusted, someone he considered family. "I'm sorry," Natasha said, meaning it. "It was 10 years ago. I've had time to adjust." But the pain was still there, buried under layers of control and carefully maintained composure. "That's why Vincent's betrayal stings. I gave him everything: position, power, respect. He was my father's friend, practically my uncle, and he decided that wasn't enough." The car slowed, pulling up in front of her apartment building. It looked even more rundown next to the pristine sedan, the flickering porch light highlighting the peeling paint and cracked steps. Natasha reached for the door handle. "Thank you for the ride. And for, not getting me killed." "Wait." Jae-hyun pulled something from his pocket, a business card with embossed lettering. "My personal number. If anything happens, anything at all that feels wrong, you call me immediately." She took the card, her fingers brushing his. "You really think Vincent would come after me?" "I don't know, but I'm not taking chances with your life." His expression was serious, almost fierce. "Promise me you'll call if you need help." "I promise," she said, tucking the card into her apron pocket. "But I'll probably be fine. I'm good at being invisible." "You're not invisible, Natasha." The way he said it made her pulse skip. "Not anymore." She climbed out of the car before she could say something stupid, before she could ask what he meant by that. Choi waited until she was inside the building before pulling away, the red taillights disappearing into the Indianapolis night. Zara pounced the second she opened the apartment door. "Tell me everything." Natasha collapsed onto their threadbare couch and told her roommate the whole story. The glint of the scope, grabbing Jae-hyun's tie, The bullets, the blood, the car ride. Zara listened with increasingly wide eyes, her box braids swinging as she shook her head in disbelief. "Girl, you have the worst luck and the best luck simultaneously," Zara declared when Natasha finished. "You could have died. But also, Kim Jae-hyun now owes you his life. Do you know what that means? That I should probably find a new job? That you're connected, now." Zara lowered her voice, even though they were alone. "My cousin's boyfriend's brother works security at one of Jae-hyun's clubs. He says Jae-hyun is ruthless, but fair. Loyal to people who are loyal to him. If he says he'll protect you, he will." Natasha touched the bandage on her cheek. "I don't want protection. I want to send money to my mom and save enough to maybe go back to school someday. That's it." "Life doesn't care what you want," Zara said wisely. "Life just happens. You're gonna have to roll with it." That night, Natasha dreamed of rifle scopes and dark eyes, and a voice saying her name like it meant something. She woke to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. Her hands shook as she scrolled through them. Her manager at the Ivory Room telling her the club would be closed for renovations indefinitely. Her mother, who'd somehow heard about the shooting and was frantic with worry. Zara's cousin warning her that people were talking, that Vincent's crew knew her name, and one text from an unknown number. "Stay inside today. My men are watching your building. You're safe, JH." Natasha stared at her phone, her mind racing. This was insane. Yesterday she'd been a waitress trying to make rent. Today she had mobsters watching her apartment and a crime boss on speed dial. She should have been terrified. Instead, she felt something else. Something complicated. Her phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Natasha Moyle?" A woman's voice, crisp and professional. "My name is Wang Min-seo. I work for Kim Jae-hyun. He'd like to meet with you this afternoon to discuss your employment situation and ensure your continued safety." "My employment situation?" Natasha repeated dumbly. "The Ivory Room will be closed for several weeks at minimum. Mr. Kim would like to offer you alternative employment during this period, along with enhanced security measures." Min-seo's tone suggested this was routine, normal, not completely insane. "A car will pick you up at 2 p.m. Dress casually. And please, don't worry. This is simply a conversation." The line went dead before Natasha could respond. Zara, who'd been eavesdropping shamelessly from the kitchen, whistled low. "Girl, you're in deep now." "I saved his life once. That doesn't mean I owe him anything." "No," Zara agreed, "but it means he owes you. And men like Kim Jae-hyun pay their debts." At exactly 2 p.m., a different black sedan pulled up outside. The driver was a woman this time, young and professional with a no-nonsense expression. She introduced herself as Min-seo, the same voice from the phone. "Mr. Kim is at his office downtown," Min-seo explained as they drove. "He wants to discuss options with you directly. He's very concerned about your safety." "I'm fine," Natasha said for what felt like the 100th time. "Vincent doesn't know me. I'm nobody to him." Min-seo's expression flickered with something that might have been sympathy. "Vincent knows you pulled Mr. Kim down. His shooter reported back before fleeing. That makes you very much somebody." The office was in a sleek high-rise in the heart of downtown Indianapolis, all glass and steel and money. They rode an elevator to the 23rd floor, and Min-seo led her through a reception area decorated in minimalist style, modern art on the walls, expensive furniture, everything sharp and clean. Jae-hyun's office was at the end of a long hallway. He stood when she entered, and Natasha's breath caught despite herself. He looked different in daylight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows, less dangerous, and more human. He'd traded his suit for dark slacks and a white button-down with the sleeves rolled up, his hair slightly mussed like he'd been running his hands through it. "Natasha, thank you for coming. He gestured to a leather chair across from his desk. "Please, sit." She sat stiffly, hyper-aware of Min-seo closing the door and leaving them alone. Jae-hyun didn't sit behind his desk. Instead, he leaned against it, arms crossed, studying her with that same intensity from last night. "How are you feeling?" "Confused, mostly," she admitted. "And a little scared, if I'm being honest." "Good. Fear means you understand the situation." He paused. "Vincent went underground. We haven't found him yet, but we will. Until then, you're vulnerable." "So, what? I hide forever?" Natasha heard the frustration in her own voice. "I have a life. Bills to pay. A family depending on me." "I know. That's why I have a proposal." Jae-hyun's expression was unreadable. "Work for me. Not at the Ivory Room. Somewhere safer. I own several legitimate businesses. Restaurants, a hotel, a consulting firm. You choose where you'd like to work, and I'll triple your current salary." Natasha's jaw dropped. "Triple? Why would you do that?" "Because you saved my life, and because Vincent knowing your name puts you at risk." His voice softened slightly. "I take care of people who help me. Natasha, it's not charity. It's how I operate. And if I say no, then I'll still make sure you're protected, but it'll be harder. You'll have guards following you everywhere, limiting your freedom." He met her eyes. "This way, you maintain some control. You work, you earn, you're safe. Everyone wins." She wanted to refuse on principle, wanted to insist she could take care of herself. But the reality was harsh and immediate. She had $30 in her checking account and rent due in a week. Her mother needed surgery money. Her youngest brother wanted to go to university. Pride was expensive. Survival was practical. "What kind of work?" she asked quietly. Relief flashed across Jae-hyun's face, so quick she almost missed it. "There's a Korean restaurant in Broad Ripple, Hallyu Kitchen. The owner is looking for a manager. You'd handle scheduling, inventory, customer service. It's legitimate, legal, and well paid." "I don't speak Korean. The staff speaks English, and—" He hesitated. "I could teach you some basics, if you wanted." The offer hung in the air between them, weighted with implications Natasha couldn't quite parse. "Why are you being so nice to me?" Jae-hyun was quiet for a moment. "Because you didn't have to help me, but you did anyway. Because you asked me why Vincent betrayed me instead of just seeing me as a criminal. Because—" He stopped, shook his head. "Because I want to. Is that enough?" It shouldn't have been. It was. "Okay," Natasha said. "I'll take the job. But I have conditions." His eyebrows rose. "Conditions? I send money home to Malawi every month. I need to be able to keep doing that without questions. And I need Sundays off for church." She lifted her chin. "And if this gets weird, if you start expecting things beyond regular employment, I walk. No questions. No guilt." "Agreed." Jae-hyun extended his hand. "Do we have a deal?" She looked at his hand. Long fingers. Calluses she could see even from here. A thin scar across his knuckles. The hand of someone who'd done violence and would do it again if necessary. She shook it anyway. His grip was firm and warm, and he held on just a second longer than necessary before releasing her. "Min-seo will handle the paperwork and get you set up. You can start Monday if you'd like." "Monday works." Natasha stood, suddenly eager to leave before she could overthink everything. "Thank you for the opportunity." "Thank you," he said quietly, "for my life." The drive home felt surreal. Natasha stared out the window at Indianapolis rolling past, the Monument Circle, the Canal Walk, the neighborhoods shifting from gleaming downtown to gritty residential. Her phone buzzed with a text from her mother. "Are you safe, my daughter?" The news said there was shooting. She typed back quickly. "I'm fine, Mama. I promise. Everything's okay. I'll call you tonight. Another buzz, this time from Jae Hyun's number. Mincio will contact you tomorrow about orientation. Get some rest. You've earned it. Zara practically tackled her when she walked in. Well, what happened? Are you on the mob's payroll now? Do you have a code name? Are you a secret agent? I'm a restaurant manager, Natasha said, collapsing onto the couch. At a Korean place in Broad Ripple. Triple salary, normal hours, Sundays off. That's it? That's so boring. Boring is good right now. Boring means I'm not dodging bullets. But as she lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling and replaying the day, Natasha knew nothing about this situation was boring. She'd stepped into something bigger than herself, something dangerous and complicated, and maybe, possibly, a little bit thrilling. Jae Hyun's face kept floating through her mind. The way he'd said her name, the intensity in his eyes, the careful control that slipped just enough to let her see the person underneath. She barely knew him. He was a criminal, a killer, probably, definitely dangerous. And he'd looked at her like she mattered. Monday morning arrived too fast and too cold. November in Indianapolis meant gray skies and wind that cut through Natasha's second-hand coat like it wasn't even there. She stood outside Hallyu Kitchen at exactly 8 a.m., watching her breath fog in the air while she gathered courage. The restaurant was small but well-kept, wedged between a coffee shop and a vintage boutique. Through the windows, she could see warm lighting and wooden tables, photos of Korean landmarks on the walls. It looked nice. Normal. The door chimed when she pushed it open. A woman looked up from behind the counter, maybe 50, with graying hair pulled into a neat bun and eyes that missed nothing. You must be Natasha. I'm Park Ji-woo, the owner. Her English carried a heavier accent than Jae Hyun's, each word carefully pronounced. Mr. Kim told me you'd be starting today. Yes, ma'am. Natasha bowed slightly, something she'd learned watching Korean dramas late at night when she couldn't sleep. Thank you for the opportunity. Ji-woo's expression softened. You saved his life. That means something to our community. She gestured toward the back. Come, I'll show you everything. The next 4 hours passed in a whirlwind of information. Inventory systems, supplier contacts, employee schedules, health code requirements. Ji-woo was patient but thorough, explaining each process twice and making sure Natasha took notes. The staff filtered in around 10. A line cook named Han, who barely spoke English, but communicated perfectly through food. 2 servers named Grace and David, who were college students picking up extra shifts, and a dishwasher named Miguel, who'd worked there for 3 years. They all knew who she was, who she'd helped. Grace pulled her aside during the lunch rush prep. Is it true you literally grabbed his tie and yanked him down? Like in the movies? Something like that, Natasha admitted, uncomfortable with the attention. I just reacted. That's insane. Mr. Kim never comes around here much, but when he does. Grace lowered her voice. He's always so controlled, so in charge. I can't imagine anyone grabbing him like that. I didn't really have time to think about it. The lunch service was chaos, but good chaos. Natasha stayed in the back mostly, watching Ji-woo work the floor with practiced ease, learning the rhythm of the kitchen and the flow of orders. Han moved like a dancer, his hands precise and quick, plating bibimbap and bulgogi with artistic care. Around 2 p.m., when the rush had died down, the door chimed. Jae Hyun walked in. He was in full business mode today. Tailored charcoal suit, black tie, hair perfectly styled. But his eyes found Natasha immediately, and something in his expression relaxed. Mr. Kim, Ji-woo hurried over, bowing. We weren't expecting you. Just checking in. He returned the bow, then turned to Natasha. How's your first day? Overwhelming, she said honestly. But good. Mrs. Park is an excellent teacher. Ji-woo beamed. She's a quick learner. Asks good questions. I'm not surprised. Jae-hyun's gaze hadn't left Natasha's face. Could I speak with you privately? Just for a moment? Her stomach flipped. Sure. They stepped outside into the cold afternoon. Traffic hummed past on Broad Ripple Avenue, people hurrying by with their heads down against the wind. Jae-hyun led her a few steps away from the restaurant's front window. Vincent's still missing, he said without preamble, but we found one of his associates. He confirmed Vincent knows your name and what you look like. Natasha's hands went cold inside her pockets. What does that mean? It means you're still at risk. I have people watching you, but I wanted you to know directly. He pulled out his phone, tapped something, then showed her a photo. A man in his 40s, with hard eyes and a jagged scar across his jaw. This is Vincent. If you see him anywhere, near your apartment, near here, anywhere, you call me immediately. Don't try to run. Don't try to hide. Just call. She memorized the face, her throat tight. Okay, I'm sorry. And he actually looked sorry, his controlled expression cracking slightly. You didn't ask for any of this. No, she agreed. But neither did you, really. Vincent made his choice. You're just dealing with the consequences. Jae-hyun studied her for a long moment. Most people would blame me. Would say I brought this on myself by living this life. Maybe you did, Natasha said carefully. But that doesn't mean you deserve to be betrayed by someone you trusted. And it doesn't mean I regret helping you. Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, maybe, or something deeper. You're remarkably understanding for someone who just got dragged into a mob war. I'm remarkably pragmatic, she corrected, and I'm good at accepting things I can't change. My dad dying taught me that. She pulled her coat tighter against a gust of wind. But I'm also stubborn about things I can change, so if Vincent comes after me, I'm not going down without a fight. A smile ghosted across Jae-hyun's face, real and startled. I believe you. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small black box. Here, I want you to have this. Natasha took the box hesitantly. Inside was a sleek smartwatch, the expensive kind she'd never dreamed of owning. I can't accept this. It's not a gift, it's security. He took the watch and gently fastened it around her wrist, his fingers warm against her skin. It has a panic button. One press, and my people know exactly where you are. 2 presses, and I get a direct alert. It's also tracking your location at all times, which I know sounds invasive, but it's practical, Natasha finished. The watch fit perfectly, surprisingly light. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. You might hate having your every movement monitored. I've been tracked my whole life, she said. By poverty, by family obligations, by immigration status. This is just a different kind of tracking. At least this one might keep me alive. Jae-hyun's expression turned pained. You shouldn't have to think like that. But I do. We both do. She met his eyes. We both know the world isn't fair or kind. We just deal with it differently. He was standing closer now, close enough that she could see the faint shadows under his eyes, the tiny scar above his left eyebrow, close enough to smell his cologne and see the muscle jumping in his jaw. I should get back inside, Natasha said, her voice coming out quieter than intended. Mrs. Park probably needs help with dinner prep. Right, of course. But he didn't move immediately. Natasha, if you need anything at all, you call. Not just for safety. For anything. Why are you doing this? The question burst out before she could stop it. Is it really just because I saved your life? Or is there something else? Jae-hyun was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, softly, I don't know yet. Maybe both. He stepped back, professional distance reasserting itself. Have a good rest of your day. He walked away before she could respond, climbing into a waiting car that she hadn't even noticed pull up. Natasha stood on the sidewalk for another minute, touching the watch on her wrist and trying to understand what was happening to her life. Inside, Ji-woo was pretending very hard not to have been watching through the window. "He's a good man," the older woman said. "Complicated, but good. His father was my husband's cousin. I've known Jae-hyun since he was a boy." Natasha started rolling silverware, grateful for something to do with her hands. "What was he like? As a kid?" "Serious. Always serious." Ji-woo smiled sadly. "Even before his father died, he carried too much weight. Korean families. We put a lot of pressure on our sons, especially oldest sons, especially sons of men like Jae-hyun's father." "Did you know Vincent too?" Ji-woo's expression hardened. "Yes. He was always hungry for more. More power, more money, more respect. Some people are never satisfied." She touched Natasha's shoulder gently. "But you don't need to worry about that. You just do your job here, learn the business, be safe, that's all." The rest of the day passed quietly. Natasha helped with dinner service, learned how to properly set up the dining room, memorized the menu items and their ingredients. By 8 p.m., when they finally closed, her feet ached and her head buzzed with information. Grace offered her a ride home since they lived in the same general direction. In the car, a beat-up Honda that smelled like French fries and vanilla air freshener, Grace turned down the music. "Can I ask you something personal?" "Maybe." "Do you like him?" "Mr. Kim." Natasha's face heated. "I barely know him." "That's not an answer." Grace grinned. "Because the way he looked at you today, girl, that was not just gratitude or obligation. That was something else. He's my employer, technically, and also a criminal, and also way out of my league in every possible way." "So that's a yes." "That's a, it's complicated, and also none of my business to have feelings about." Natasha stared out the window at Indianapolis rolling past. "I'm here to work and stay safe, that's it." "Uh-huh. Sure." Grace pulled up outside Natasha's building. "For what it's worth, I think he likes you too. I've worked at Hallyu for 2 years, and I've never seen him show up randomly to check in on anyone. You're different." Natasha climbed out of the car, waving goodbye, her mind spinning. Different. She'd been different her whole life. Different country, different accent, different skin color, different struggles. Being different had never been an advantage before. Maybe it was now. Her apartment was quiet. Zara was at her night shift at the hospital, pulling double overtime to save for her nursing degree. Natasha made herself instant noodles, then FaceTimed her mother in Lilongwe. Her mom's face filled the screen, worn and beautiful, her hair wrapped in a bright shitenje. "My daughter, are you eating enough? You look thin." "I'm fine, Mama. I have a new job. Better pay." Natasha kept her voice bright, not mentioning the bullets, or the danger, or the complicated man with dark eyes. "I'll be able to send more money next month." Her mother's expression filled with relief and something that looked like tears. "Thank you, my blessing. Your brothers ask about you. They miss you. I miss them too." And she did, with an ache that never quite went away. "How's Chisomo's school? Is he keeping up with his studies?" They talked for half an hour about normal things. Her youngest brother's grades, her middle brother's new girlfriend, the neighbor's goat that kept eating her mother's garden. Normal, everyday life happening thousands of miles away, in a world that felt increasingly distant. After they hung up, Natasha sat in the dark apartment and felt the weight of 2 lives pulling at her. The one she'd left behind, and the one she was building here. She'd come to America on a student visa 5 years ago, determined to get her degree in business management and return home to help her family. But money had run out, her visa had expired, and she'd been surviving in the shadows ever since, working under the table and sending every spare dollar back to Malawi. The watch on her wrist buzzed. A text from Jae-hyun. "Did you get home safely?" She stared at the message, her thumb hovering over the keyboard. Yes, thank you for the watch. Good. Sleep well, Natasha. She fell asleep with her phone in her hand and dreamed of rifle scopes and warm hands and a voice saying her name. The next 2 weeks fell into a rhythm. Natasha worked 6 days a week at Hallyu Kitchen, learning the business from Jiwoo and slowly earning the staff's trust. The work was hard but satisfying, and the pay was exactly what Jae-hyun had promised. Triple her old salary, deposited into a new bank account that Min-seo had helped her set up. Jae-hyun came by every few days, always with some excuse, checking on inventory, meeting with Jiwoo about supplier contracts, reviewing the books. But his eyes always found Natasha, and they always ended up talking. Small conversations at first. The weather, how she was adjusting, if she needed anything. Then bigger conversations. Her family back home. His childhood in Seoul before his father moved them to America. Her dreams of finishing school. His complicated relationship with his mother, who lived in California and barely spoke to him anymore. She never forgave me for taking over the family business, he admitted one afternoon when they were alone in the restaurant office, supposedly reviewing employee schedules. She wanted me to go legitimate, become a lawyer or businessman, not this. Natasha looked up from the computer. Why didn't you? Because my father's enemies would have destroyed everything he built. Someone had to protect it. Protect the people who depended on us. He leaned against the desk, arms crossed. And maybe because I'm good at it. At reading people, making decisions, keeping control. I tried the legitimate world during college. Hated every second. Do you regret it? This life? Sometimes. Late at night when I can't sleep and I'm thinking about all the things I've done. Yeah. Sometimes. His eyes met hers. But then I think about the people I've protected, the businesses I've kept running, the families that depend on the jobs I provide. It's not all bad. It's not all good. It's just complicated. Everything worthwhile is complicated, Natasha said. Simple is boring. He smiled then, a real smile that transformed his face. You're wise for 26. I'm practical. There's a difference. The moment hung between them, charged and fragile, before Jiwoo bustled in with questions about the new menu items, and the spell broke. But Natasha felt it, the slow building of something she couldn't name yet, but couldn't ignore either. Then everything changed on a cold Wednesday in late November. She was closing up the restaurant alone. Jiwoo had left early for a doctor's appointment, and the evening staff had already gone home. Natasha was doing the final cash count when the door chimed. She looked up with her customer service smile ready. I'm sorry, we're Vincent stood in the doorway. Time seemed to slow down, everything crystallizing into hyper-clarity. Vincent looked exactly like his photo, but worse in person. His scar livid against pale skin, his eyes cold and calculating. He wore an expensive coat and a smile that made Natasha's stomach turn. Natasha Moile, he said, his voice smooth and cultured. We haven't been properly introduced. I'm Vincent Castellano. Her hand found the panic button on her watch under the counter, pressing it twice without looking. The restaurant is closed. I'm not here for food. He stepped inside, and Natasha saw another man behind him. Tall, muscular, definitely armed. I'm here to talk about a mutual friend. I don't know what you're talking about. She kept her voice steady, even though her heart was hammering. Please leave, or I'll call the police. Vincent laughed. The police? Sweet girl, the police in this city know better than to get involved in family business. He moved closer to the counter. But you got involved anyway. Yanked Jae-hyun down like he was just some random guy. Very brave, very stupid. I did what anyone would do. No, anyone else would have run. He leaned on the counter, studying her face. You're prettier than I expected. I can see why Jae-hyun's taken an interest. He always did have a thing for strays. People who needed saving. Anger flared hot in Natasha's chest. I'm not a stray, and Mr. Kim doesn't need to save me. Doesn't he, though? Vincent's smile widened. You're here illegally, aren't you? Overstayed your visa, working, under the table. One call to immigration, and you'd be deported before sunrise. Her blood went cold. How do you? I know everything about you, Natasha. Where you live, where you send money, your mother's name, your brother's names, your little roommate Zara, who works night shifts at Methodist Hospital. He pulled out his phone, swiped through photos. Want to see? I have pictures. Natasha's hands clenched under the counter. What do you want? Smart girl, gets right to business. Vincent pocketed his phone. I want you to deliver a message to Jae-hyun. Tell him I'm willing to negotiate. He gives me control of the Eastern Territories and the pharmaceutical operations, and I'll disappear. Everyone lives. Everyone wins. He'll never agree to that. Then people will start dying, starting with the ones he cares about. Vincent's eyes locked onto hers. Like you. The front door exploded inward. Men in black suits flooded in, guns drawn, moving with lethal precision. Vincent barely had time to react before he was on the ground, his arms wrenched behind his back. His bodyguard didn't even get his weapon out before he was disarmed and pinned against the wall. And then Jae-hyun was there, stepping through the broken door, like an avenging angel, his expression colder than Natasha had ever seen it. He looked at Vincent on the floor, then at Natasha behind the counter, and something dangerous flickered in his eyes. Are you hurt? He asked her, his voice deadly quiet. No, I'm okay. Her legs were shaking, but she stayed upright. I pressed the button, like you said. Good girl. He turned back to Vincent. Get him up. Two of his men hauled Vincent to his feet. The older man's sophisticated mask had cracked, revealing rage underneath. You can't do this, Jae-hyun. I have rights. I have lawyers. You threatened someone under my protection. Jae-hyun's voice could have cut glass. You came to my restaurant. You broke the rules we've followed for 30 years. He stepped closer, and Vincent actually flinched. You don't have rights anymore, Vincent. You have consequences. She's nobody. Just some African girl you're probably sleeping with. Jae-hyun hit him, one precise punch that sent Vincent sprawling, blood streaming from his nose. You don't talk about her. You don't think about her. You don't even breathe in her direction. He crouched down, his face inches from Vincent's. I gave you everything. I trusted you like family. And you tried to kill me. For what? Money? Power? Your ego? Vincent spat blood. You're just like your father. Too soft, too traditional. The world is changing, Jae-hyun. Adapt or die. My father knew loyalty meant something. You've forgotten that. Jae-hyun stood, adjusting his cuffs with careful precision. Take him to the warehouse. And Vincent? He smiled, cold and sharp. You're going to wish I'd killed you quickly. They dragged Vincent out, his threats and curses fading into the night. The bodyguard went, with them, silent and resigned. In seconds, the restaurant was empty except for Jae-hyun, Natasha, and two guards by the broken door. Jae-hyun turned to her, and his expression transformed. The cold mask falling away to reveal something raw and worried underneath. Did he touch you, hurt you in any way? No, he just talked. Natasha came out from behind the counter on shaky legs. He knew everything about me, Jae-hyun. My visa status, my family, where I live. He threatened to call immigration. He can't do anything now. Jae-hyun crossed to her, his hands hovering like he wanted to touch her, but wasn't sure if he should. You're safe, I promise. Am I, though? Her voice cracked slightly. He knew about Zara, about my brothers. What if he has other people? What if... Natasha. Jae-hyun cupped her face gently, his thumbs brushing her cheekbones. Look at me. I will not let anything happen to you or the people you love. Vincent is finished. His network is being dismantled as we speak. You're safe. She wanted to believe him. Standing there with his hands warm against her skin, she almost did. This is insane. 3 weeks ago, I was just a waitress. Now I'm in the middle of a mob war and a crime boss is touching my face, and I'm not even scared anymore. I'm just what? Confused. She looked up at him. This man who'd somehow become important to her in such a short time. About what this is. About what I'm feeling. About why you care so much about someone like me. Jae-hyun's expression softened. Someone like you, he repeated. You mean someone brave? Someone loyal? Someone who sees me as a person instead of just a title or a criminal? His hand slid down to her shoulders. I care because you're remarkable, Natasha, and I can't seem to stop thinking about you, which is very inconvenient and probably incredibly inappropriate. But there it is. Her heart stuttered. Jae-hyun, I know this is complicated and dangerous and probably a terrible idea. But he didn't move away. But I can't lie to you. I won't. The moment stretched between them, fragile and loaded with possibility. Natasha knew she should step back, should maintain professional distance, should protect herself from getting hurt. Instead, she leaned forward and pressed her lips to his cheek, soft and brief. When she pulled back, Jae-hyun's eyes had gone dark. What was that for? For being honest, and for keeping me safe. Her cheeks heated. That's all. Don't read too much into it. Too late. But he smiled, genuine and almost boyish. Come on, I'm taking you home, and you're not staying at your apartment tonight. It's not secure enough. Min-seo has set up a guest room at my house, just until we're sure Vincent's entire operation is neutralized. Your house? Natasha's eyebrows shot up. Absolutely not. That's too much. It's practical. I have security, staff, everything you need. He was already guiding her toward the door. And before you argue, remember that Vincent knew your address. Your apartment is compromised. He had a point, damn him. Fine. But just for a few days. And I'm calling Zara to make sure she's okay. Already done. She's being picked up from the hospital right now and brought to my place as well. At her look, he shrugged. I told you I'd protect the people you care about. I meant it. The drive to Jae-hyun's house took 20 minutes, winding through Indianapolis neighborhoods that got progressively nicer until they reached a gated community in Carmel. His house was not what she expected. Modern but warm, all clean lines and natural wood, with huge windows and subtle lighting. Nothing ostentatious or screaming wealth, just comfortable and beautiful. Zara was already there, sitting in the living room with wide eyes. "This place is insane," she hissed when Natasha walked in. "He has heated floors! Heated floors!" "Are you okay?" Natasha hugged her roommate tightly. Vincent didn't. "I'm fine, confused, and slightly terrified. But fine." Zara pulled back. "What is happening to our lives? I honestly have no idea anymore." Min-seo appeared with warm tea and cookies, showing them to adjoining guest rooms that were bigger than their entire apartment. Everything was pristine and coordinated, the kind of place Natasha had only seen in magazines. Jae-hyun knocked softly on her door an hour later, after she'd showered and changed into borrowed clothes that Min-seo had somehow procured in exactly her size. "Can I come in? It's your house." He entered, still in his suit, but with the tie loosened and the top button undone. Exhaustion lined his face. "I wanted to check on you before I head to the warehouse. Vincent needs to be dealt with." Natasha's stomach clenched. "What does dealt with mean?" "Nothing you need to worry about." He sat on the edge of the bed, careful to maintain distance. "He'll face consequences for his actions. Justice in our world." Will you kill him? The question hung heavy. Jae-hyun was quiet for a long moment. Do you want the truth or the comfortable lie? Truth? Always truth. Then yes, probably. He tried to kill me, threatened you, broke every code we have. In my world, that only ends one way. He looked at her steadily. Does that change how you see me? Natasha thought about it, really thought. I don't know. Maybe it should, but it doesn't. Not the way I expected. She twisted her hands together. He was going to hurt people. You're protecting people. I understand the difference, even if I don't like the methods. You're remarkably accepting for someone so far removed from this life. I grew up poor in Malawi. I've seen violence and death and corruption. I've seen people do terrible things for money or power. She met his eyes. At least you have reasons beyond greed. At least you protect people who are loyal to you. That's more than a lot of people can say. Jae-hyun stood, crossing to her slowly. You see the best in people. Even me. Even when you probably shouldn't. I see what's there, good and bad. She stood too, and they were close now. Close enough that she could see the gold flecks in his dark eyes. You're not a good man, Jae-hyun, but you're not entirely bad either. You're just human. His hand came up to cup her cheek again, gentle and warm. I don't deserve you. You don't deserve anyone, she said, but there was no heat in it. You've made choices that hurt people, but you've also made choices that help people. That makes you complicated, not evil. Natasha. Her name was a question and a statement, and maybe a plea. She rose on her toes and kissed his forehead, soft and lingering. When she pulled back, his eyes were closed. Go do what you need to do, but come back. Talk to me after. Don't shut me out. Okay. His voice was rough. I'll be back before morning. He left, and Natasha sank onto the bed, her emotions swirling. She should be horrified. Should be running. Should be calling the police or immigration or anyone. Instead, she was falling for a man who operated outside the law, who would probably kill someone tonight, who represented everything her mother had warned her about, but who also made her feel seen and protected and valuable in ways she'd never experienced before. Zara tapped on the connecting door around midnight. Can't sleep either. Not even a little bit. They sat together on Natasha's bed, sharing the expensive cookies Mincio had left. Zara was quiet for a while before speaking. You're in love with him, aren't you? I barely know him. That's not an answer. Natasha sighed. I don't know what I feel. It's too much, too fast, too complicated. He's dangerous and powerful and completely wrong for me in every way. But, Zara prompted, but he's also kind when he doesn't have to be, and honest about who he is. And he makes me feel like I matter, like my opinions and thoughts are valuable. She pulled her knees to her chest. And when he looks at me, I feel seen. Really seen. Not just as the poor immigrant or the waitress or the helper. As Natasha. Girl, you've got it bad. I know. And it's probably going to end terribly. Maybe. Or maybe it'll be something beautiful. Zara squeezed her hand. Either way, I'm here. We'll figure it out together. Jae-hyun returned at 4 a.m. Natasha heard the car pull up, heard his footsteps in the hallway. She'd been lying awake, unable to sleep, mind spinning with worry and questions and feelings she couldn't name. His knock was soft. Are you awake? She opened the door. He looked exhausted, his hair mussed, his jacket gone, blood on his shirt cuff that made her stomach turn. Are you hurt? Not my blood. He leaned against the doorframe. Vincent's alive, for now. But he's talking, giving us information on his network. It'll take time to dismantle everything, but it's done. The threat is over. Relief flooded through her. Good. That's good. Can I? He hesitated. Can I just sit with you for a while. I don't want to be alone right now." Natasha stepped aside, letting him in. They sat on the bed, shoulders touching, not speaking. After a long moment, Jae-hyun's head dropped onto her shoulder, heavy and warm. "I'm tired," he said quietly, "of this life, of making decisions that hurt people, of being the person who has to get blood on his hands to keep everything running." Natasha's hand found his, threading their fingers together. "Then why do you keep doing it? Because if I don't, someone worse will take over. Someone like Vincent who doesn't care about codes or honor or protecting people." He turned his head slightly, his breath warm against her neck. "My father built something with rules, with structure. People depend on that structure for their livelihoods, their safety. If I walk away, it all crumbles. That's a heavy burden. It is, but it's mine." He squeezed her hand. "Thank you for not judging, for just being here. Where else would I be?" They sat like that until dawn broke through the windows, painting the room in soft gold. Jae-hyun eventually fell asleep against her shoulder, his breathing deep and even. Natasha stayed still, not wanting to wake him, thinking about responsibility and loyalty and the complicated nature of right and wrong. When he woke an hour later, he pulled back quickly. "Sorry, I didn't mean to fall asleep on you. It's fine. You needed rest." He stood, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "I should shower, change, and then I need to deal with some business fallout. But after that, I'd like to talk, really talk, about what this is between us." Natasha's heart skipped. "Okay, I'd like that too." He paused at the door. "Natasha, thank you. For everything. For seeing me. I know that's a lot to ask, but thank you." After he left, Zara peeked in. "Did he just sleep on your shoulder all night?" "Most of it, yeah. And you're still pretending you're not completely gone for him?" Natasha threw a pillow at her. "Shut up and help me figure out what to wear. Apparently we're having a conversation about our feelings later." "Oh my God, you have a feelings conversation scheduled with a mob boss. Your life is a movie." "My life is insane. There's a difference." But as Natasha showered and dressed in clothes that Minseo had somehow acquired overnight, perfectly fitted jeans and a soft sweater in deep blue, she felt something like hope blooming in her chest. The conversation happened in Jae-hyun's study that evening, a room lined with books in Korean and English, a massive desk, and windows overlooking a garden that probably cost more than Natasha's entire education. He'd changed into casual clothes, dark jeans, and a black sweater that made him look younger, less intimidating. They sat on a leather couch, tea cooling on the table between them, the weight of unspoken words filling the space. "I don't know how to start this," Jae-hyun admitted. "I've negotiated million-dollar deals and stared down armed enemies, but talking about feelings, that's harder." Natasha smiled slightly. "Start with honesty. That's all I need." He took a deep breath. "I like you. More than I should. More than is probably wise. You're in my head constantly. The way you talk, the way you see the world, the way you stood up to Vincent without flinching. I think about you when I wake up and when I go to sleep and pretty much every moment in between." Her heart thudded in anxiety. "Jae-hyun, let me finish, please." He turned to face her fully. "I know this is complicated. I know my life is dangerous and messy and not something anyone should want to be part of. I know I'm asking too much by even admitting this, but I can't keep pretending you're just someone I'm protecting out of obligation. You're more. You've become important." Natasha's throat tightened. "You're important to me too, and that terrifies me because I came to this country to build a better life, to help my family, to make something of myself. Getting involved with someone like you, it could ruin everything. I know. But I can't stop thinking about you either. The confession tumbled out. About your laugh when I say something that surprises you. About the way you switch to Korean when you're tired. About how you remember that I take my tea with honey and lemon. She met his eyes. About how you make me feel safe and seen and valued. No one's ever done that before. Jae-hyun reached for her hand, holding it gently. So what do we do? Because I'm not good at denying myself what I want. But I also won't push you into something that could hurt you. We try, Natasha said, surprising herself. We're careful and honest, and we see where this goes. But I have conditions. Name them. You don't lie to me, ever. About the business, about the danger, about what you're feeling. I'd rather have hard truth than comfortable lies. She squeezed his hand. And you let me keep my independence. I work. I make my own choices. I'm not just some possession you're protecting. I'm a partner, or I'm nothing. Agreed. And my condition is that you tell me when it's too much. When the danger, or the lifestyle, or the complications become more than you can handle. Promise me you'll walk away if you need to, not stay out of obligation or fear. I promise. They sat there, hands joined, the commitment hanging between them like something fragile and precious. Then Jae-hyun leaned forward and pressed his lips to her forehead, soft and reverent. Thank you for taking a chance on me. Natasha tilted her head up, kissing his cheek in response. Thank you for being worth the risk. The next few weeks were complicated, but beautiful. Natasha moved back to her apartment once Jae-hyun's people confirmed Vincent's entire network was dismantled, but she saw Jae-hyun almost daily. He'd show up at the restaurant during her shifts, ostensibly to check on business, but really just to talk. They'd steal moments in the office, conversations flowing from deep to silly and back again. He taught her basic Korean phrases during slow afternoons, laughing when she butchered the pronunciation. She introduced him to Malawian music, watching his face light up when he heard the rhythms. They texted constantly, stupid jokes and thoughtful observations, and pictures of random things that reminded them of each other. But it wasn't all smooth. Jae-hyun's mother called 2 weeks into their tentative relationship, demanding he come to California for Thanksgiving. The conversation that followed was tense and painful, conducted half in Korean, while Natasha pretended not to listen from across the room. When he hung up, his expression was stormy. She wants me to bring someone to dinner, someone appropriate, someone Korean. Natasha's stomach dropped. Oh, I told her I'm seeing someone, that you're important to me. He ran a hand through his hair. She said some things I won't repeat, about gold diggers and inappropriate relationships and dishonoring my father's memory. Maybe she has a point, Natasha said quietly. I am from a different world, different culture, different background. Maybe, no. Jae-hyun crossed to her, framing her face with his hands. Don't let her words make you doubt this. My mother is traditional and bitter and stuck in the past. She doesn't get to decide who I care about. But family is important to you. I know it is. Natasha covered his hands with hers. I don't want to be the reason you lose your mother. You're not. She lost me the day she told me my father's business was shameful, that everything he built was wrong. She chose her pride over understanding. His eyes were fierce. I'm choosing you over her expectations. If she can't accept that, it's her loss. Natasha kissed his forehead again, this gesture becoming their thing. I'm sorry it's hard. But thank you for choosing me. Thanksgiving came and went. Jae-hyun didn't go to California. Instead, he joined Natasha, Zara, and a handful of other friends for a potluck in their tiny apartment. He brought Korean fried chicken and watched with barely concealed amusement as Natasha attempted to cook traditional Malawian ensima and struggled with the temperature. Let me help, he offered, stepping into the kitchen. You know how to cook ensima? No, but I know how to follow instructions and adjust heat. He stood behind her, guiding her hands on the wooden spoon. Like this. Steady, consistent stirring. Zara watched from the doorway, grinning like an idiot. You two are disgustingly cute, just so you know. They ate dinner crowded around the coffee table, sharing stories and laughter. Jae-hyun looked more relaxed than Natasha had ever seen him, his laugh genuine and frequent. When her youngest brother called from Malawi on her phone, Jae-hyun excused himself to give her privacy. "Who is that man?" Chisomo asked in Chichewa. "Is he your boyfriend?" "It's complicated," Natasha said, smiling despite herself. "But yes, kind of." "He looked at you like you're the son. That's good." Her brother's voice turned serious. "Be careful though, sister. Men with money and power, they're not always kind." "I know, but this one is. Mostly." After everyone left and Jae-hyun helped clean up, he lingered at the door. "Thank you for including me. That was nice. Normal. You're always welcome here. This is just as much your space as anywhere else." She leaned against the doorframe. "Stay safe going home." He kissed her hand, lips soft against her knuckles. "Always. Sleep well, Natasha." She watched him leave, Choi waiting by the car, and felt her heart swell with feelings she wasn't quite ready to name but couldn't deny anymore. December brought snow and complications. A rival organization from Chicago started making noise about expanding into Indianapolis, testing Jae-hyun's territory. He spent long hours managing the situation, coming to the restaurant late at night looking exhausted and worn. Natasha would make him tea and sit with him in the office, not talking, just being present. Sometimes he'd rest his head on her shoulder, like that first night. Sometimes he'd hold her hand and stare out the window. Sometimes he'd tell her about the decisions he had to make, the impossible choices between violence and vulnerability. "I'm tired of fighting," he admitted, one cold night in mid-December. "Of constantly defending territory and maintaining control. Sometimes I think about walking away, giving it all to someone else." "Why don't you?" "Because I don't trust anyone else to do it right. To protect the people who depend on us." He turned to look at her. "And because it's all I know. My father raised me for this. It's my legacy." "Legacies can change," Natasha said softly. "You're not your father. You get to choose what you build." He was quiet for a long moment. "What would you have me build? Something that makes you happy. Something you're proud of." She squeezed his hand. "Maybe keep the legitimate businesses and slowly phase out the illegal ones. It would take time, but maybe that's a legacy worth building." Jae-hyun looked at her like she'd said something profound. "You make it sound possible." "It is possible, if you want it badly enough." That night, he kissed her hand and her forehead and both her cheeks, each kiss soft and full of unspoken promises. "I'm falling in love with you," he whispered against her temple. "Just so you know." Natasha's breath caught. "That's inconvenient." "Very. And probably a bad idea. Terrible idea." "I'm falling for you too," she admitted, her voice barely audible. "Just so you know." His arms came around her, holding her close and careful. They stood like that for a long time, the restaurant quiet around them, the world outside forgotten. But peace never lasted long in Jae-hyun's world. 2 days before Christmas, Min-seo called Natasha directly. "There's a situation. Jae-hyun's ex-fiancée is in town. She's demanding to see him, and she's making things difficult." Natasha's stomach clenched. "Ex-fiancée?" "Her name is Yoon Hana. They were engaged 3 years ago, arranged by their families. It ended badly." Min-seo's voice was carefully neutral. "She's at his office right now, refusing to leave. He asked me to tell you he'll be late tonight." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because Hana is vindictive and smart. and she'll use any weakness she can find. If she knows about you. Minseo paused. Just be careful. Watch your back. After hanging up, Natasha sat in the empty restaurant and tried to process. Ex-fiancé. Arranged marriage. A past she knew nothing about. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Stay away from Jae-hyun. He belongs with his own kind. You're just a distraction. Then a photo. Hana and Jae-hyun from years ago. Formal and beautiful together. Looking like they belonged. In a magazine spread. She was stunning in a traditional hanbok. He was in a sharp suit. And they looked perfect. Natasha stared at the photo, doubt creeping in for the first time. What was she doing? She was a broke immigrant with no status and a criminal boyfriend, trying to compete with someone who came from his world, who understood his culture, who his family probably loved. Another text. He'll never choose you over his responsibilities, over his family. You're convenient, not permanent. She blocked the number, but the words lingered. When Jae-hyun finally arrived at her apartment around midnight, he looked furious and exhausted. Hana told you? Not exactly. Minseo warned me, and then someone sent texts. Natasha showed him the messages. Want to explain? He sank onto her couch, head in his hands. Hana and I were engaged when I was 29. Our families arranged it. Good bloodlines, good business connections, traditional match. I tried to make it work because it was expected. He looked up, eyes tired. But Hana wanted power, not a partner. She wanted the position, the status, the control. When I realized she was feeding information about my operations to her father to gain leverage, I ended it. And now she's back because she heard about you somehow. Because she thinks she can use my relationship with you to get back into my life, to cause problems. His jaw clenched. She threatened to go to immigration about your status. If I don't see her, talk to her, consider reconciliation. Fear shot through Natasha. She can't. She won't. I've already called in favors, made sure your status is protected through channels she can't touch. He took her hands. But this is what I meant about my world being dangerous. People like Hana weaponize anything they can. She'll dig into your past, your family, anything to find leverage. Maybe I should step back, Natasha heard herself say. Let you deal with this without me being a target. No, Jae-hyun's grip tightened. That's what she wants. For you to leave, for me to be alone and easier to manipulate. Don't give her that power. But if staying puts my family at risk, your family is already protected. I've had people watching them since Vincent. Your mother, your brothers. They're safe. He pulled her closer. Please don't leave me because of Hana. Don't let her win. Natasha looked at him, this powerful, dangerous man practically begging her to stay. Okay, but you need to deal with her. Set boundaries. Make it clear we're together. I will. I am. He kissed her forehead, then her hands. I'm sorry you're dealing with this. You deserve better than my complicated past showing up to threaten you. We all have complicated pasts. Mine just doesn't involve arranged marriages and society expectations. She managed a smile. Though my grandmother did try to set me up with her friend's son when I was 19. Does that count? He laughed, surprised and genuine. Little bit. Christmas Eve arrived with more snow and a surprise visit from Jae-hyun bearing gifts. He showed up at Natasha's apartment with bags from expensive stores and a sheepish expression. I know we said no gifts, but I couldn't help myself. Inside the bags were a new winter coat, practical and warm but beautifully made, a cookbook of Korean recipes with notes in the margins in his handwriting, and a framed photo of Lake Malawi that he must have found online and printed. For when you're homesick, he said softly, so you can remember where you come from. Natasha's eyes burned. I love them, all of them. She pulled out her own gift, much more modest, handmade. A scarf she'd knitted in deep blue, working on it during slow shifts at the restaurant. I know it's not much. It's perfect. He wrapped it around his neck immediately. You made this? Learned from YouTube tutorials. It's probably full of mistakes. It's perfect, he repeated, pulling her close. Thank you. They spent Christmas Eve together, just the two of them, cooking dinner in her tiny kitchen and watching snow fall outside. Jae-hyun told her about Christmases in Seoul as a child, elaborate family gatherings with traditional food and strict protocols. Natasha shared memories of hot December days in Malawi, singing carols in Chichewa and her father's laugh booming through their small house. I miss him, she admitted. Every Christmas, every birthday, every important moment. I miss him. Jae-hyun pulled her into his arms, holding her while she cried quietly against his chest. I know. I miss my father too. Even though he was complicated and difficult, I still miss him. They fell asleep on her couch, tangled together under a blanket, the Christmas lights twinkling in the darkness. New Year brought changes. Jae-hyun started the process of legitimizing his business operations, slowly and carefully. He promoted trusted people to handle the remaining illegal operations while he focused on the restaurants, the hotel, the real estate holdings. It wasn't overnight, and it wasn't clean, but it was progress. Hana tried twice more to interfere, once showing up at Hallyu Kitchen to make a scene, and once sending lawyers with threats. Both times, Jae-hyun shut her down firmly and publicly, making it clear that Natasha was his choice, his partner, his future. The second time, he did it in front of his entire organization. A formal dinner where he introduced Natasha as someone important, someone to be respected and protected. She wore a dress he'd bought her, deep purple and elegant, different from anything she'd owned before, and stood by his side, while men in expensive suits bowed and acknowledged her. It was terrifying and surreal, and somehow exactly right. Afterward, in his car heading back to her apartment, she turned to him. Was that your way of making us official? That was my way of making sure everyone knows you're under my protection. That hurting you means answering to me. He took her hand. Is that okay? It's terrifying and wonderful and completely insane. She squeezed his fingers. So yeah, it's okay. February brought a surprise visit from Natasha's mother. She'd saved enough money from what Natasha had been sending to buy a plane ticket, determined to meet the man her daughter kept mentioning in their calls. Jae-hyun was nervous in a way Natasha had never seen. What if she hates me? What if she thinks I'm too old, too dangerous, too wrong for you? Then we deal with it. But she's going to love you. Natasha straightened his collar, smiling. Just be yourself. The version of yourself you are with me. Her mother arrived on a cold Saturday afternoon, wrapped in layers and looking around Indianapolis with wide eyes. She hugged Natasha fiercely, then turned to Jae-hyun with an assessing gaze that made him stand straighter. They had dinner at Jae-hyun's house, Korean and Malawian food mixed together, Min Seo helping coordinate, while Zara translated the parts that got lost between English, Korean, and Chichewa. It was chaotic and loud and beautiful. Her mother pulled Natasha aside, while Jae-hyun was showing Zara his garden. This man, he loves you. I know, Mama. And you love him? Yes, her mother studied her face. He is complicated, this man. Powerful and dangerous, I think. But he looks at you like you hung the moon. That is good. She touched Natasha's cheek gently. Your father would approve. He always said choose someone who makes you brave, not safe. This man, he makes you brave. Tears pricked Natasha's eyes. I miss Baba. I know, my daughter, but he would be proud of you, of the woman you've become. Her mother smiled, And this man, he would fight the world for you. I see it in his eyes. That night, after her mother had gone to sleep in one of the guest rooms and Zara had crashed in another, Natasha found Jae-hyun on the back patio, staring up at the stars. "Your mother scares me," he admitted when she joined him. "In a good way. She sees right through me." "She likes you. She said so." He turned to her, eyes searching her face in the darkness. "I want to do this right. With you. With us. I want to build something real and lasting, not just convenient or temporary." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I love you, Natasha Moyle. Completely. Terrifyingly. Irrevocably." He took both her hands. "I'm saying I want a future with you, whatever that looks like. I'm saying you've changed me, made me want to be better, to build something worth being proud of." Natasha's heart felt too big for her chest. "I love you too, even though you're complicated and dangerous, and sometimes infuriating." He laughed, pulling her close. "I'll take infuriating as long as you stay." "I'm not going anywhere." She kissed his cheek, then his forehead, then his other cheek. "You're stuck with me." "Good. That's very good." They stood there in the cold February night, wrapped in each other's arms, and Natasha thought about how far she'd come from that day in the ivory room when she'd grabbed a stranger's tie and changed everything. About rifle scopes and betrayal, about family and choice, about love found in the most unlikely places. The future was uncertain. There would be more challenges, more complications from his world and hers. Hana wouldn't give up easily. Jae-hyun's transition to legitimate business would take years. Natasha's immigration status was still precarious despite his protection. But they'd face it together, hand in hand, forehead kiss by forehead kiss, building something new from the broken pieces of their separate pasts. And somehow, impossibly, that was enough. I don't know about you, but I'm still thinking about that moment when Keza grabbed his tie without even hesitating. Would you have done it, knowing what could happen next? Let me know in the comments, and if this story hits you in the feels, go ahead and like it, so more people can find it